Okay, hi everyone, this is BDevine, and get ready because this is going to be a very interesting talk about Neptune and how now it has moved into Aries. We have Pluto that has moved into Aquarius. Now we have Neptune, who has been in Pisces for a long time, moving itself into Aries. So I want to connect with this. This is actually a big one in my own personal chart. I'm going to try to help you to understand this a little bit. So you will look for Aries in your birth chart. You do need to know what time you're born, obviously where, okay, and the date, right? To really get a very accurate, otherwise it will go into a default sort of a viewpoint for you if you have an unknown birth time. So the idea is to look on your birth chart at what house Aries is for you. And maybe you've got other planets in there. I've got Jupiter in my Aries, and I've got Chiron in there also. Now, there are people who are born in the 70s that you may have Chiron in Aries also, okay? So then we're adding Neptune. Yours may look different. Aries might be where your sun is. Aries might be where your moon is, right? Or it just might be your rising sign, or it's just sitting somewhere in your chart. Maybe it doesn't have any planets. Well, Neptune is there now. Neptune is very, very interesting. Okay, so I really want to get into this. Yesterday we were traveling. I told you we had visitors. So we were traveling to the airport, and so many messengers. Gosh, so many messages, so many hawks, so many flocks of birds, a near miss accident, and also I saw a coyote in the city at someone's backyard. It wasn't in their backyard, but behind their back fence. Just unheard of. So many, I'm telling you, so many hawks. Unfortunately, a couple of them had been hit by a truck or something, but hawks that flew into our view did a sort of a spin and left again. Just there was just so many signs yesterday of messages, things coming in. So big day yesterday. Now I'm going to read to you a little bit about this particular big change, okay, that happened January 26, and this will initiate 13 years of this. So if you think that you were starting to connect with the energy of the flame sovereignty, starting to understand a little bit deeper that you've got this your own original blueprint, that you are an architect, you are building, you have abilities within you, that you are stabilizing your nervous system, you are starting to become in control of your life. If you thought that that was already happening, wait, okay, because this is going to force the collective around us to really start to change how they view things spiritually, and it will come to them. It will have no choice but for them to start to wake up a little bit out of their slumber, okay? So Neptune entered Aries on January 26th. This is something that you can look up on Google, okay, and find out what that means for you and your placement. But I'm just going to read a little bit. It initiates a transformative 13-year transit lasting until 2039. This rare, once-in-a-lifetime shift merges Neptune's spiritual illusion-shattering energy with Aries' pioneering, bold fire, fostering personal liberation, radical self-identity shifts, and new proactive belief systems. See, so it's happening collectively. There are going to be more and more and more people who are going to be sort of saying, I want something different. I'm so tired of the same old stuff, and coming in this direction, because this is where it's at. This is obviously predestined for all of us, right? So the key things, active spirituality. Unlike the passive, dreamy nature of Neptune in Pisces, right? Away with the fairies, a lot of people have been. This transit forces a shift from contemplating ideals to actively fighting for them, right? You may have woken up today like something's different, okay? Radical and individuality. So the next 13 years will see a focus on personal empowerment, authenticity, and defining oneself without looking to the collective for validation. You know, this is what I've been saying to you all, right? We don't need to outsource it all of the time. We don't need to shuffle cards and feel good that someone got the same card that we got or whatever. We are trusting, okay? We are trusting. We don't need other people to tell us that it's okay. We're doing it, right? Cultural shifts. Expect a move in the artistic innovation. So rebel reverence in fashion, media, a focus on strength and simplification. I got 2 pairs of pants on. I am pulling them both up. Okay. So people, you know, changing your look, changing how you do things, you know, maybe focusing on strength training or something, maybe, right? Historical echoes. So 1861 to 1875 was the last time that Neptune was sitting in Aries. It has never been around in our lifetime. And here it is. The same like Pluto, Revolutionary War time. Then we have this Neptune going right when there was the Civil War, right? Then we see all this ridiculousness all over the place, right? Everyone scrambling and fighting and all of that stuff. So the last time it happened, it signaled major societal restructuring and battles for freedom from tyranny. Okay? No matter what you say, okay, if you don't like the system, okay, you don't like the governments, if you don't like anything like that, stop feeding into it with your thoughts and your anger and your everything, because you just increase the power. I made a video talking about every single thing that you think about, a person that you hate, so you say, a person that you can't handle, you're just constantly thinking about it, politics, you know, all the bosses and all the leaders, whatever it is. As much as you don't like someone, every single thought that you give to them, you give them power. And the dogs are agreeing. Positive or negative. Okay, even if you hate certain leaders and you're constantly going on about it or different things, you give them your power. So if you don't like them, stop doing that. You see? So, because we waste so much time on who we don't like, or we're focused on it, or we can't stand this and we can't stand that, and you know, I just can't have it around me. So I don't care what anyone else is doing. All I care about is the growth of the collective who are tuning in to the betterment of themselves. Okay, so now it won't be the same as it was in these past times either, because the battle will be a different one. The fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, might feel the most direct, fiery impact. Fire, flame, you know, it's happening. Prompting a complete reinvention of their personal identity and life path. Sometimes people will do it chaotically. That's their journey. Air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, okay? You'll experience shifts in how you communicate your beliefs and relate to others, prioritizing independence in partnerships, okay? Water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. You may experience profound emotional or spiritual breakthroughs, re-evaluating your boundaries and security. That has to happen. And earth signs, sorry, it has been so cold here. Okay, earth signs will be encouraged to bring dreams into reality, particularly regarding career or daily routines, by adopting a more pioneering approach. Okay, so what it means for you even more is going to be based upon what you have. But I am got what you have in your birth chart, free natal chart. Go online, it's very easy. Free natal chart, punch in your details and have a look at the house that Aries is in for you. The house that it's in, knowing that Neptune is there now too. Then you could possibly do, if you don't know much about it, you could go, okay, say my 11th house is Aries with Neptune in it. What does this mean? Okay, and it will give you a really good look over, just like a brief guide. But you have to know what house it is, because the house really determines what that sign is doing, right? So if Aries is in the first house, it's all about you, your identity, right? If your rising sign is Aries, you got Neptune going on in there. God knows what else, planets and things that you might have in there as well. You're going to be redefined. Not to mention Pluto doing its thing in Aquarius, right? These are key. Saturn's doing things as well. And I think that comes up February 20th. Neptune-Saturn alignment will happen in Aries. And this will bring big changes. Not to mention the year of the fire horse in the Chinese, astrology, New Year. It will be, the fire horse is on the February the 17th. So it is all pushing forward. Okay. Okay, so let me go into my own notes now and talk about Neptune through the signs and the return to Aries in the flame era. This is, I couldn't have asked for the better timing. Okay, before I do that, this is the book that I get a lot of information from. It very, very helpful with your intuitive abilities as well. Once you understand symbology, you'll find that it comes up in a lot of places. I looked at Neptune in here, and so let me give you an overview of this. Okay. In primitive thought, he was the deity of heaven in its symbolic aspect of the upper waters. That is, the gods of clouds and rain. Later, he became the god of fresh and fertilizing water. Finally, he was seen as the god of the sea. Okay. Then, in this development, we can trace not only a chronological and historical line of progress, but more especially a spiritual projection of the myth of the fall, which finally became absorbed into the character of Neptune. The trident, seen from this point of view of descent of the fall, can be equated with the thunderbolt. In a book called La Nature et le Dieu, on the other hand, identifies the trident with the magic wand used in water divining. For the alchemists, Neptune was quite simply a symbol for water. Apart from the trident, his attributes are seahorses, signifying the cosmic forces and the swelling rhythm of the foamy waves. The discovery of psychoanalysts, psychoanalysts, that the ocean is a symbol of the unconscious has, at the same time, proved beyond question the relationship of Neptune with the deepest layers of the individual and the universal soul. Therefore, is able to conclude, oh my God, that Neptune, like Pluto, symbolizes at times the negative aspect of the spirit. He's the king of the depths of the subconscious and of the turbulent waters of life. It is he who unleashes storms, representing the passions of the soul, particularly in the extreme role as the destroyer. So Dail regards the trident as the emblem of the threefold sin arising from the corruption of the three vital impulses of the spirits, which is conservation, reproduction, and evolution. Adding that the trident in this sense is also an attribute, so they say, of Satan. Now that's because we see the three prongs, but I'm telling you now, the trident has a completely different meaning. Now, hang on just 1 second. All right. Because, all right, now just hold on a minute. See, my brain, QRS. Okay, hang on. Because, see, everything's just on the spot here on this channel. Okay, so the trident is actually an Atlantean energy too, and it's actually a powerful tool for us, right? But I will get more into our flame tools at a later time. But the trident here, the three-pointed spear, have been advanced, ranging from Eliad's suggestion that originally it was a representation of the teeth of sea monsters, to Deal's explanation, which is the attribute of Neptune and of Satan. So according to Bailey, it is a corrupt form of the cross, adapted, that is, in such a way as to suggest a vicious character. More precisely, every instrument, object, or being having three members or parts, where one would normally suffice, realizes a trebling of its symbolic force or potentiality. This is born out of Zimmer's comment that the trident denotes threefold hostility. So if the three or the treble is connected with something that is satanic, then why do we have the Trinity in Christianity? So the third point might well correspond to the third eye of Shiva, the destroyer, since the trident is also an attribute of this god. The fact that the trident was the weapon of the Roman Retiarius is highly significant, for the net, which he also used, relates him to the Uranian deity, whereas the sword wielded by the Mamilo gladiators suggests the heroic solar sun. Hence the trident in the hands of Retiarius would seem to be an attribute of archaic paternal power, opposed to the unique heroism of the solar sun. Dail, with his moralist approach, carries the negative implication of the trident to its logical conclusion, suggesting that it symbolizes triple sin corresponding to the perversion of three vital urges of nutrition or preservation. So, hence it is an attribute of the god of the unconscious and of sin, Neptune, whose realm is the haunt of monsters and base forms of life. The triple character of the trident is an infernal replica of the Trinity, comparable with the three heads of Cerberus or the triform Hecates. On the other hand, a favorable interpretation has also been ascribed to the trident. Charles Plot in La Nature et le Dieu associates the wand with water divining. Now, this is also very true with the flame stuff. So I'll give you an example in a minute. Although this interpretation seems to rest on somewhat dubious grounds, according to Father Harris, the trident was, in the Proto-Indian era, an attribute of God. Okay? Now, the trident being a magical thing also. All right, okay, let me do this. Hang on. So let me have a look here. I've written something about this before, so I will pull it up if I can. Maybe I can't. All right, hang on just a second. I got to go into my drive, so I will. All right, so let's see. In the Atlantean energy, we bring up the trident of flame memory. And what this does is the function anchors sovereign thought, voice, and will into earth and water grids. So this is for grid clearing. And you see how they try to make it something that's not very positive. Neptune in itself can seem illusionary, okay, daydreamy. And when it was in Pisces, you know, people would get carried away with certain lofty goals and ideas and things, but it creates a different energy depending on where it is. So this is for womb healing, voice restoration, dream code retrieval. Also, I want to read something else real quickly. I know, right? You gotta, my mind goes in a quite in-depth way and quite quickly. So I do, I do try to keep you along for the journey. But sometimes things just come at me like this. So let me see if I can find it again. So this was, let's see. Nope. I had written something about this before, so I'm just going to see if I can get it up real quick. Okay. Anyway, I don't know why I can't see this.
That was until I found Scribe. Right, here's my honest review of Scribe.
See how everything tries to distract. So then we have the music changed over here. So we have to just let that play through for a second. All right, anyway, the trident as something that's magical for us to use as well. Something that we can connect with in a different way. All right, I'll leave that for now because I can't find it quick enough. So I'll go back to what I was doing. Let's refresh things. Come on. Come on. Okay, here we go. All right, so now.
Opposite of any work platform we tried in the past. We tried other work management
platforms. I'm not gonna do
I'm going to get rid of this. All right, hang on.
Total opposite. Didn't just work, it spread. And people became
Right. Got the blankie for the laps. Okay. Neptune. Let's go. Okay, so as you can see, differing opinions on the energy of Neptune itself and on the trident, etc. But let's go into this. Neptune doesn't build, it dissolves. It softens the mind, erases boundaries, and rewrites reality silently. But when it finishes its work, only truth or delusion remains. This isn't an astrology talk, so to speak. This is a scroll-coded map of how the collective has been programmed, sedated, or awakened through Neptune's passage sign by sign. So I'm just going to go briefly through so that we understand what was happening each time that we saw this come through. So the first thing, as an archetype, Neptune can bring mass belief systems. It can bring fantasy and illusion depending on what sign it's sitting in. It can bring the spirituality, mysticism, and occultism in. It talks about the subconscious or the unconscious mind. It can be where we dream about things or where we drown. Wherever Neptune goes, it erodes false structures until only essence remains. So it transits and dissolves the outdated. So each time it moves into something, it's dissolving what it was doing before, moving into something new and amplifying things or whatever, right? It reshapes how generations feel God, connection, and possibility. And it's quite slow. Just like it takes a long time for, and this is how I think of it, for waves to crash against a rock, right? And at first, the rock is still really rough. Over time, with patience, starts to smooth that surface. Okay, so it dissolves slowly over time. So listen to this. In 1861 to 1875, it's the last time that Neptune was in Aries. Okay, this was the flame dreamer and the warrior prophet. So in the past, that time, there was a civil war, there was rebellion, there was self-mythology. The dream was to rebirth through fire. The distortion was false heroism, spiritual violence, and fanaticism. Now, as it moves in 2025, a little bit now 2026 till 2039, the return of the ultra flame identity, the awakening of the scroll bearing architects, all of you who went through absolute danger the last time that it was here. Many of you lost your lives. Then it moved into Taurus from 1875 to 1889. And this was beauty, spell, and possession dream. The collective dream became wealth because it's connected with Taurus, right? Art, body, form. The birth of consumerism ideals. Soft mysticism came up there. You had a lot of secret societies and things like this that started to become more like people were secretly going to mediums and all that sort of thing. Spirituality was sold through comfort, and the illusion was that you are what you own, right? This is where all this, you have this much and you've got this much, started to become more in our faces, right? Then it moved, and I'm trying to move through this quickly, by the way. It moved from Neptune, it moved into Gemini. This was 1889 to 1902. And this was the dream of thought control. So mass media seeds were planted at this time. duality narratives, good versus bad, heaven versus hell, started to become more of a reality. The rise of the word as spell, ads, dogma, even tech in some ways, upgrades, inventions, all this sort of thing. So the illusion was truth is whatever you repeat the loudest. This is still quite active, by the way. Truth is whatever you repeat the loudest. Then it moved itself from 1902 to 1915. Now we're getting towards, World War One, etc. here too. Gallipoli for the Australians, right? And New Zealand. So Neptune in Cancer, the homeland myth and emotional spell. So this was nationalism built on emotional manipulation, trauma tied to tribe and family, wounds around safety and return. And the illusion was you are your origin story. Okay, you are your origin story. Then Neptune from 1915 to 1929 sat into Leo. This is sort of also building us up to financial changes, the Great Depression, all of this started to come in. So this was the celebrity illusion and the divine ego age. So this was the rise of film, right? Fame, icons, spiritual leadership tied to charisma. Cults and gold glam mysticism also starting. The illusion, if it shines, it must be divine. So things that you can see how our attention started to become quite diverted, and even divided. It just starts going like this, wishy-washy, over here, right? Then it became Neptune in Virgo. This is 1929 to 1943. A lot of health stuff going on with Virgo. The purification obsession coming in. Eugenics, body control, spiritual perfectionism. The rise of fascism and moral purity movements, as we know, World War II sort of sitting in here too. Medicine and health as spiritual weapons. Can't go into that because, but okay, you get what I mean. So perfection is safety, which was the illusion that perfection is safety. Okay, things started to change quite a lot with Neptune in Virgo in those times. There was a lot of things that were being kept. Okay, I mean, that's always been the way, but it really started to become the way here. Neptune in Libra, 1943 to 57. This was the peace programming. So peace without justice, harmony without truth. Post-war illusion of balance, making you believe that everything was sweet, and it wasn't. There were things still going on. Rise of image, etiquette, and codependency. The illusion, if we all smile, the pain disappears. Okay? There's a lot of things happening in the early, let's just say the 1900s. There was a lot of things that people were just oblivious to. Okay? Neptune in Scorpio, 1957 to 1970. You know, in the 1970s, then you've got Sagittarius, right? So it keeps on going. So everyone born between 1957 and 1970 has Neptune in Scorpio in their chart. Okay? So, this is important also as to where it is now in Aries, right? So, the seduction spell and death mysticism, psychedelics, sexuality, spiritual depth, cult fascination with death. Okay? Jim Jones and all these things. Power, secrets, new age doors started to open. People were looking at things in a little bit of a different way. So they were saying things like, if it's hidden, it must be holy. Okay? a lot of things changed here also. And then you're coming into the Vietnam War, right? So Neptune in Sagittarius, which is what it is for me, was 1970 to 1984. Anyone in that time that are born, you had it here. And this is in general, okay? So there's spiritual tourists and the dogma boom. Gurus rise, okay? You had famous people going to visit these gurus, okay? New religions exploding. Obsession with journeys, tribes and truth. Prosperity gospel and bypass via optimism. So it said if it expands you, it must be right. And that was the illusion for many people. Transcendental meditation started coming out at this time with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And we had the Beatles going to see him, etc. So things were starting to change from going to church and being a Catholic or a Christian, right? And going to church, and some things were going to meditation groups and trance mediumships, and all these things started to change. So although it seemed weird to many people at the time, it's nothing to us now. The same with the flame stuff. It all seemed weird in the beginning. Everyone's like, wow, where's Becky going? This is crazy. And now you, the more that you've listened, the more you've understood, the more centered you feel, the more structured things are, the more you get it, right? So, things changed again as Neptune moved into Sagittarius. Then it moved into Capricorn from 1984 to 1998. Okay, this was the Empire spell and systemic delusion. So this was spiritual success was tied to structure or branding, the rise of the professional mystic. Institutions adopt a lot of spiritual language here. And then the illusion was if it's stable, it's divine. So things weren't looked into as much as it needed to be. Okay, branding is the word that comes out. People were starting to look at this in a different way. Then Neptune in Aquarius was from 1998 to 2012. And this was an ascension, collective ascension delusion. Tech and spirituality began to merge. Okay, so I was online in 2009, and YouTube was quite a newer thing, really, and I started YouTube in 2010. So it started to be able to speak to more people. I used to just go from person to person, from party to party, from place to place, right, to do my messaging. And it started to be, well, actually I can do this from home, and I can actually email people, and we can do this online, wow. So the rise of online awakening communities started happening. I always felt like I was completely on my own in all of this. And in fact, I think I wanted to be on my own in the way that I believed things were, and the way that I felt that things needed to happen, based upon experience, right? But the mimic light code started happening, and the fake future prophecy of everything's going to go, the year 2000, right? Y2K, all that stuff, 2012, end of the world, all this. And digital sort of trance also. And the illusion was if we all awaken together, we'll escape. No. Now, up until 2025, we've had Neptune. From 2012 to 2025, we've had Neptune sitting in Pisces. That's a long stretch, right, for us. So if you go back to that time, things I'm sure were happening in your life. The final veil and the liquid light field. So absolute spiritual saturation. It is everywhere. Everywhere. So the collapse of gurus and guides and emotional authority. So a lot of this changed. People were found out. Things started to get ugly. There was a lot of projection. There was a lot of confusion and escape. And the illusion was that everything is spiritual, and the truth is nothing is spiritual unless it is sovereign. That's it. Right? So this was the changes. I started to talk about the flame in 2025, and how we have to understand our identity as strong and powerful beings, and we had a lot of things stripped from us, right? We've hidden a lot of our codes. We've hidden a lot of the information within our bodies and around the globe and in cosmic libraries, etc. And all of these things were accessible to us, right? We haven't lost any of it. We just shut it off a bit, okay? For fear of it being taken over. Some people gave in, unfortunately, to the false energy and to mimic guidance and, just really pushing people in a negative way. You all know some of those people and what all that was, and I'm not going into it. But as we move into the flame era, we take our power back on every level. Now, Neptune in Aries is going to be here till 2039. The return of the flame architects, all of you. Soul sovereignty begins again here. The false light burns off. I've told you that the systems will fail. The way that it all has been has got to dissolve. Now, with this Neptune sitting in Aries, it will force you as an individual, as Aries does, because it's, the head centered, it's me first centered. It will force you to be yourself, to accept yourself, to stop being dissuaded by everyone else, and to listen to that self more than you've ever done before. And it changes things. And not only does it change things for you, but by proxy, everyone changes around you. It is absolutely powerful. The scroll carriers, you that are listening, you're going to remember this. You are going to activate. It's happening already. The new foundations rise. You're not waiting anymore for heaven or for answers for someone else to tell you. You're rebuilding what was taken in real time. You will see manifestations begin to happen very quickly because you will understand to adjust your timeline. Instead of going, I hope maybe it's coming, I'm going to do a spell or something. Instead of all of that, you're going to instead claim that timeline and dissolve the old ones. You're rebuilding, okay? You're understanding it. So Neptune didn't just move through these signs. It moved through us also. And now that the fire is back, what was once a fantasy becomes structure, or must become a structure, or it will be erased, right? So, as we walk through this collective sort of dream field through Neptune, the planet of illusion, the planet of mysticism, the planet of false energy also, and forgotten soul memory, it is a liquid mirror for us. The field of what we wish to believe. And in each sign, it reveals where humanity either opened portals to deeper truth or got trapped in this aesthetic dreams, false gods, or distorted forms of love, right? Oh gosh, itchy. For now, in the first time in over 160 years, it has returned to Aries, it's returned to the flame. So, again, like I said, 1861 to 75, it was in Aries. Okay, this was the last time it was in Aries. And this brought a rise in ideological wars, US Civil War, the Unification Wars in Europe, and it was masked as a divine mission. It brought an emergence of martyrdom consciousness, dying for one's country, as a holy flame. The flame distortion was violence mistaken for initiation. And flame bearers were killed, exiled, or erased. In this era, mimic flame orders rose and the scrolls were hidden. Now we're going to be able to take it back. When it was in Taurus, There was a material illusion, as I said. Prosperity mimicked through industrial growth, 1875 to 1889, but it created soulless labor. Arts and architecture shifted toward grandeur with no soul, beauty without spirit. Collective chased comfort but lost embodiment. The flame distortion started happening. Value equals my worth or my wealth. And the flame was commodified. Again, the 1889 to 1902, there was a rise of media propaganda, newspapers, information. Whatever information we give them, they're going to can't wait for the next episode. They're going to be watching next week to see what occurs. Stories, okay? Words as spell, media as manipulator. So they were, the Golden Dawn theosophy were partly true, partly false. Some of it was right, some of it wasn't. Psychic channels, but they were untrained, ungrounded, just letting any old thing in. So mimic teachings began to spread, right? And this brought language becoming confusing instead of bringing us clarity, okay? Neptune in Cancer, okay? What does Cancer represent? Home, mother, roots, right? Neptune in Cancer, 1902 to 1915, the wound of home. The destruction of the family unit happened via World War I. The seeds were planted here. The nation equals the family, but it was abandoned its children. Okay? The rise of ancestral trauma and motherline disruption. Flame distortion, the home became haunted. Lineage pain was suppressed. See how interesting that is? As it goes into Leo, it goes into the creative section, right? And the cult of celebrity exploded. Dictators rose with divine aura. Hollywood began. Image over integrity. Flame distortion, the divinity was mimicked by ego and false lie ascended. Okay? Neptune in Virgo, purity and perfection becomes poison. Eugenics, sterilization, mass control of the body. The Great Depression, perfection was impossible. Shame and spiraling. The flame distortion was service became slavery, purity became punishments. Neptune in Libra, from 43 to 57, partnership as a prison. Idealism in love, marriage and gender roles. Rise of codependent patterns as romantic devotion. The flame distortion was unity without sovereignty, and the flame began to split. Neptune in Scorpio, from 57 to 1970. LSD and psychedelics, as I said, opened portals, but many left their body. Occult and shadow teachings rose, but it was mixed with false ET interferences. I'm telling you. Flame distortion, opening to spirit equals possession risk. And the truth was fragmented. Then we move into Sagittarius from 1970 to 84. This brought an explosive rise of spiritual movements and cults. The false gurus, the one truth, the narratives, and mimic ascended masters gained power. Again, people were still looking for outside assistance constantly. The flame distortion was belief over knowing and guru over your inner flame. Okay, I'm going to listen to this, not this. We were taught systematically to get rid of our inner self and to only rely on someone besides yourself to tell you. Okay? This is why many people don't have any faith in themselves, so they can't trust, okay, because it's been shut down for so long in lifetimes. Then from 84 to 98, corporatization of God, tele-evangelism, okay, it is written, right? Organized spirituality profit, big churches, massive, donations. It's a business. The American dream, the myth was solidified. The flame distortion was the system became savior and authority equaled divine. Then we moved into Neptune in Aquarius from 1998 to 2012. The internet stuff, right? New Age loops. So, explosion of digital spirituality happened. Forums, gurus, channels, YouTubes, everything started happening. We were able to access it absolutely everywhere, right? But it was also a rise. At the same time, there were so many good people trying to help you. Okay, there was so much BS out there that it was really hard to tell the difference. So the rise of galactic identities, right? Misused starseed teachings. A lot of people are still in that whole thing. Flame distortion, unity consciousness became crowd hypnosis, right? Then the Neptune into Pisces from 2012 to 2026, which brought spiritual bypass epidemic, which meant ascension. We're just going to rise. We're going to rise. Meant avoidance of looking at all of your patterns, which means you would never fully heal anyway. Love and light movements diluted the raw flame truth of take it or leave it. It is what it is. It's still a no for me, right? Being strong in your boundaries was somehow wrong. We had to just be complacent to everybody, or else we're a jerk. It's just not how it works. Mass confusion, ET saviors, false angelics, the goddess system and the angel system, etc. There has been a change in all of that. I'll explain that at some time. The flame distortion, everyone is light, but no one is grounded. It's just, okay. So now we go back into Neptune in Aries up until 2039. And as it enters, it's not to destroy, it's to purify and burn away the fog, to ignite the soul memory that you buried to survive. This means that we are in the flame era no matter what anybody thinks. And this means no more passive dreaming, no more savior complex, no more false unity. You carry the scrolls. You carry soul documents. You are encoded. You have it all. You are a timeline igniter. You're a grid walker. You are all the abilities. You all have it, but you won't know it until you ignite your origin flame. Your voice is going to change, right? False guides, mimic dreams, false timelines collapse. No need for them. No attention to it. No need for it. You're going to be tested, not by punishment, but by opportunity. Things that you signed under illusion will now be dissolved. You got to speak. This is the thing for me. I have to speak what no one else is willing to do. I have to ignite within each one of us what was buried for a really long time. I have to cut cords to false timelines or illusions and mimic ancestry and claim the flame scroll. Not as a metaphor for something, as a memory. You're remembering. Remember how they say, remember who you are, remember who you are, remember. This is it, right? This is what they were talking about without being able to say it. So, humanity has been through enough. We've dreamed enough. We've given up it all for other people. We have just sacrificed enough. The dream now returns to the flame, and Neptune in Aries says, wake up, flame bearer. You're not lost. You are coded to burn through the lie. This is your time. Flame on. That is going to be your saying. Okay? The voice becomes the portal. You are all the voice of the flame. You are the flame. Okay? You are the igniter. You can recalibrate. You can dissolve. You can receive if you have a strong enough signal. Neptune in Pisces was creating everyone's signal to be distorted, right? And giving up of themselves and staying in some kind of wandering around out there energy. That's what was happening. Now, Aries brings the fire. We see things for what it really is. We pay attention to what we're paying attention to. We strengthen through our signal, our self, our nervous system reset. This is what's happening. The information starts to flood in. It just starts to come. There's a pause in the way that you're speaking. There's a change in what you're viewing, what you're arguing with or not, where your energy goes or doesn't. There is also like a raw energy that's coming through. It's like any distortion that tries to get in your way is going to be easily seen and dealt with. Okay? And unfortunately, look, we're always sifting. There's going to be people that leave. There's going to be more and more and more that come. And this will be true in your life. If you've been waiting at the back, waiting for your turn, if you've had ideas that haven't landed, and you know you've been like trying to do something online, or maybe you've been trying to start your own business, or you've been trying something, this is the time. This is the time. And it gets rid of all of those questions. Something in spirituality is that people just constantly have, 50 questions after you've already told them, because they refuse to center themselves and anchor themselves and reset themselves. It's just always about what somebody else has to tell them, and then they'll go do it because it validates something within. This is also another sign of anxiety too. All this is going to change. People are going to see themselves through you. Okay? Through the things that you've experienced, people will say, well, if this person can do it, so can I. You will be more magnetic to others as well. There will be a strength through being able to speak about something, because it brings you a release, right? And others are finally going to thank you for what you used to be punished for as well. So a lot of things happening. Collective transfiguration. Again, saying what others are afraid to admit. This is my job. And, people who are on the same mission are going to be aligned. It's no longer followers and all that sort of nonsense, subscribers, whatever. Teachings, collaborations, me getting away from being practitioner and constantly giving to maybe one person or 5 at a time, and giving to all, right? People are going to fall away because they're going to reject you standing up for yourself. Fine. That's fine. Okay? So you're no longer explaining, you're just embodying things. There's just less performance and more straight on to the point. Things will just always carry these flame tones in them. The deliveries now that you have are going to disarm manipulation, get rid of illusions, and restore these soul codes. So anyone that's refusing, doesn't want to know, whatever, will just naturally fall off, and that's fine. But you will see massive changes in what we call spiritualism. It's now the flame mysticism or the flame era. It's here. We're doing the mute button placed on these flame architects and flame bearers lifetimes ago. People who gave their lives for things outside of themselves. and multiple lineages of pain, and you're part of that as well. This is going to be dissolved. It is time for us to come into our full potentials. And over the next 12 years, in fact, over the next 20, 30 years, you're going to see it over and over and over again. So, thank you for listening. Thanks for being a part of understanding your flame path and waking up to it. And there is more every single month when I give webinars through the Patreon page and through YouTube Live Unlisted. There's more and more and more revealed. So I hope that you will also just embrace your journey, okay? Knowing that as you do, you change so much around you. We ended up changing the grid of this whole world and how it works. So thanks for listening again. I will say goodbye for now and see you in the next video. Flame on.